Black Lives Matter has been controversial in both name and action. Anti-police tactics ranging in aggression from provocative socks to actual cold-blooded murder have prompted the counter-mantra Blue Lives Matter.
Blue Lives Matter in America.
And at a more fundamental level, critics argue the name Black Lives Matter is philosophically flawed, and that all lives, including Black lives, matter.
You know, all lives do matter. It is important for people to understand that.
Of course all lives matter, and all lives includes Black lives.
All lives matter!
Since the inception of Black Lives Matter, I have tried to be charitable with my perception of the movement and understand that many urban centers are difficult places to live, with daily struggle, little opportunity, and seemingly inevitable encounters with law enforcement on high alert. I have tried to take the nuanced understanding that the disagreement between Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter and All Lives Matter is not which lives matter and which lives don't. The disagreement is which lives are most at risk, or at least perceived to be most at risk. I used to think that nobody serious would argue that certain lives don't matter, but it's getting harder to maintain that position in the face of mounting evidence otherwise.
If they go about their burden of whatever they said you're doing, you pull your piss out and you fucking bust out.
Most recently, I came across this article in the Bible of Peace and Tolerance that affirms blue lives do not matter because, quote, police are not people. Now, your critical mind is probably thinking there must be some context to explain that quote. And you're right, there is a bit. But that quote is a core argument in the piece to which I welcome you, Stop Blue Lives Matter, which says legislation protecting police from hate crime victimization is, quote, a direct slap in the face to communities struggling against police brutality. Despite police being targeted in hate crime fashion in New York City, Dallas, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and elsewhere, this article argues that a proposed law to protect them, the Blue Lives Matter Act, is unnecessary and even offensive on 3 grounds. First, yes, that police are not people. Second, that police work is not dangerous. And third, that securing convictions of criminal cops is a practical impossibility. Let's examine the arguments in order. First, let's get the full context of what this author means by police are not people. The success of the police union's movement to pass federal legislation such as the Blue Lives Matter Act rests on convincing the public that police have dangerous jobs, that they do these jobs while under attack, and that they are left completely defenseless by the legal system. They also want the public to believe that there are blue lives, that they matter, and that they need protecting. Nothing could be further from the truth. Police are not people. Blue is not an identity. Blue is not a race. It is not a gender. It is not a sexual orientation. Blue is not a religious affiliation or a disability. Blue is a position. It is a government position. It is a paid government position that is filled by employees with medical and dental benefits. The police are a profession. They are not people. Okay, so although this author has framed her argument for shock value, she's not actually arguing that police officers are not human beings. At least I don't think so. She's arguing that being a police officer is not an intrinsic part of your person, like race or sex or other characteristics protected by hate crime legislation. I understand the argument, but not everything covered with hate crime protection is an intrinsic part of your person. Wearing a yarmulke is not an intrinsic part of your person. Wearing a hijab is not an intrinsic part of your person. Even being visibly, externally, identifiably gay is not necessarily an intrinsic part of your person. These are expressions individuals choose, in much the same way a person chooses to serve in law enforcement and wear the badge that identifies the service. And it's equally wrong for any of this expression to be targeted for violence. If police are not people, neither are Muslims, neither are Jews, arguably, neither are gays. I'm guessing our author isn't comfortable with that conclusion, despite the fact that her reasoning leads us there. Second, the author writes that police jobs are not dangerous. As a profession, the police are in a far less dangerous position than one might think. In fact, it would be fair to argue the police don't have a very dangerous job at all. According to the FBI, in 2015, 41 officers were feloniously killed in the line of duty. This is a 20% decrease since 2014. 41 officers killed in 2015. Is that a lot? Is that a little? Our author notes that police officer is not one of the top 10 deadliest jobs, but still doesn't really answer the question. Dangerous or safe compared to what? Specifically to say the author's cause. Black people targeted by police. According to Bureau of Justice statistics data compiled by 538, 3.4 per 100,000 black arrests result in a homicide. There were an estimated 805,000 state and local officers in 2015. 41 of them killed means that they were killed at a rate of 5.1 per 100,000, meaning that police are killed at 150% of the rate that this author believes to be an intolerable injustice. And remember, that rate of 3.4 African Americans killed per 100,000 is based on arrests, not the general population. If we count the general black population instead of black arrests, only 0.37 per 100,000 were killed by police in 2015. In other words, civilians kill police at about 20 times the rate police kill black civilians. If being a cop isn't dangerous, then data show neither is being black in America, at least with police involvement, according to the author's own reasoning. Third, this author argues it is a practical impossibility to convict murderous cops. In function, it is almost impossible to bring an officer that has killed a civilian to court for their crimes, let alone secure a conviction. Even after recorded killings of Oscar Grant, John T. Williams, Philando Castile, Laquan McDonald, Eric Garner, Charles Kinsey, and a number of other victims, an average of only 4 out of these over 1,000 cases of police killings make it to court, and of these, an average of only 1 will be convicted. Well, is it possible these numbers are actually just fine and unjustified killings are actually quite rare? I find the author's case selection here fascinating. Her first example, Oscar Grant, was wrongfully killed by police. Despite what the author says, the officer who killed him was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Several of her examples, Philando Castile, Charles Kinsey, Laquan McDonald, are either still under investigation or still at trial, making claims of injustice dubious, as due process is still in process. One of her examples was a Native American, not an African American, whose killing by the Seattle Police Department was found to be unjustified and whose family received $1.5 million in a settlement with the city. So to recap, in our author's examples, justice was either served or is still in process. And those examples are apparently the best she can do. Think of who she didn't include. Why not Michael Brown, whose autopsy showed he reached for the police officer's gun? Why not Corin Gaines, who allegedly pointed a shotgun at police officers? Why not Seville Smith, who allegedly pointed a stolen handgun at police officers? Even if I give this author the benefit of the doubt and conclude that all of these are cases of unjustified murder, she just finished saying 41 police deaths mean nothing, yet she has nothing close to 41 examples of the injustice she finds intolerable. This article isn't just factually challenged, it contradicts its own reasoning. Numbers matter when they fit the author's narrative. When they don't, they're insignificant. And that's why I did what I always do. Reach out to the author for the obligatory Poe's Law check. Can she confirm this article is indeed sincere and not satire? She confirmed sincerity, asked what I disputed, and I said I'd be happy to explain in person on my podcast where we could discuss. She bragged about her PhD, said she charges for speaking engagements, called me a racist, and blocked me. You racist, how dare you offer me a platform on which to promote my anti-racist cause? Fine. If I have to pay for her to engage in an honest debate about her work, that's what I'll do. And that's why I've emailed her to offer her a paid speaking gig on my show. I don't know how much she charges, but I'm sure we can crowdfund it if she agrees. Stand by to see how she responds. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below and especially over on Twitter. That is at skag_3. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.